Not alone. Act 1. The silence. The house was too quiet now. That's what Diva noticed most in the 3 months since Joel passed. She moved through their home of 37 years like a ghost herself, touching the spines of his beloved books, inhaling the fading scent of his cologne on the jacket still hanging by the door. At 62, Diva had expected to grow old with Joel. They'd had plans, a trip to Portugal, finally learning to ballroom dance, spoiling future grandchildren. Now she ate dinner alone at 5:30 p.m. sharp, the way they always had, setting one place instead of two. "You need to get out more, Mom," her daughter Rebecca said during their Sunday phone call. "Join a book club. Take a class. Something." "I'm fine," Diva replied, which was what she always said. But she wasn't fine. The loneliness pressed against her chest like a physical weight. She'd started talking to Joel's photograph, asking him what to make for dinner, telling him about the squirrel that kept raiding the bird feeder. The photograph never answered, but sometimes she swore she could feel him listening. It was on a Tuesday morning, sorting through yet another box of Joel's things that the hospice counselor had encouraged her to tackle when ready, that Diva found the letter. It was tucked inside Joel's copy of 100 Years of Solitude, written in his distinctive cramped handwriting, dated 2 weeks before he died. "My dearest Diva, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're probably eating those terrible frozen dinners and forgetting to water the plants. I know you, my love. You're pulling away from everyone, telling yourself you're managing. But I need you to do something for me. I need you to open the safe deposit box at First National. Box 247. The key is taped inside the cover of our wedding album. What you find there will explain everything. You are not alone, Diva. You never were. Trust me one more time. Forever yours, Joel." Diva's hands trembled as she reread the letter. Safe deposit box? In 37 years of marriage, Joel had never mentioned a safe deposit box. What could possibly be there? She found the key exactly where he said it would be, a small brass key with a red tag, hidden behind their wedding photo. Her in that ivory dress her mother had sewn, Joel in his father's suit, both of them impossibly young and full of hope. The bank manager, Mrs. Chin, greeted her with practiced sympathy. "Mrs. Morrison, I was wondering when you'd come. You knew about this? Your husband set it up 6 months ago. Paid for 10 years in advance. Said you'd come when you were ready." Mrs. Chen led her to the vault, her heels clicking on the marble floor. Box 247 was larger than Diva expected. Inside was a leather portfolio bulging with documents, a small velvet pouch, and a USB drive with another note attached. "Watch this first. Alone." Act 2. The Revelation. Back home, Diva's hands shook so badly it took 3 tries to insert the USB drive into her laptop. Joel's face appeared on screen, thinner than she remembered, his eyes bright with fever but also with love. "Hello, my darling. If you're watching this, you found my breadcrumbs. I'm sorry for the mystery, but some things needed to be done this way." Joel coughed, and Diva's heart broke all over again watching him struggle for breath. "Diva, there's something I never told you. Not because I wanted to keep secrets, but because I was afraid. Afraid you'd think differently of me. Afraid of what it might mean." He paused, gathering strength. "Before I met you, when I was 22 and stupid, I had a relationship with a woman named Caroline Winters. It was brief, intense, and ended badly when she moved to Seattle for graduate school. I threw myself into my work and tried to forget her. Then I met you at that terrible office party and you were everything, funny, brilliant, kind. You became my whole world." Diva felt ice forming in her stomach. Where was this going? 2 years after we married, I got a letter from Caroline. She'd had a daughter. My daughter. Our daughter. Her name was Emma, and she was 18 months old. The room spun. Diva gripped the edge of her desk. Caroline didn't want anything from me. She'd met someone, a good man who wanted to raise Emma as his own. She just thought I had a right to know. She said if I wanted to be involved, we'd figure it out. But if I wanted to walk away, she'd understand. She gave me a choice." Joel's eyes filled with tears on the screen. "I made the wrong choice, Diva. I was terrified of losing you. I just landed the promotion we needed, you were talking about starting our family, and I told myself it was for the best. I told Caroline I couldn't be in Emma's life. I've regretted it every day since. Diva pressed pause, her mind reeling. Joel had a daughter. She had a stepdaughter she'd never met. For 35 years, Joel had carried this secret. She felt betrayed, furious, heartbroken, but also, underneath it all, something else. Curiosity. And a strange relief that Joel had been human enough to make mistakes, to be afraid, to be flawed. She pressed play. I tried to forget, to move on. We had Rebecca and she was perfect, but Emma was always there in my mind. I sent money anonymously through a lawyer, set up a trust fund Caroline never knew about. It was cowardly, I know. I should have told you. I should have been braver. He paused to catch his breath. When I got sick, when I knew I was dying, I hired a private investigator. I needed to know Emma was okay. What I found out changed everything. Joel leaned closer to the camera. Emma is 36 now. She lives in Portland, just 2 hours away. She's a pediatric nurse. She's married to a woman named Sarah. They have 2 kids, your grandchildren, Diva. Twin boys, age 7. And here's the thing that breaks my heart. His voice cracked. Caroline died 4 years ago. Breast cancer. Emma's father, her stepfather, passed away when she was in college. Emma is alone, Diva. She has her wife and kids, but no parents, no siblings. Caroline never told her about me. I don't know if she would have eventually, but cancer doesn't wait. Joel wiped his eyes. In the portfolio you'll find everything. Photos, information, letters I wrote but never sent. There's also contact information for the lawyer who manages Emma's trust fund. He knows the whole story. He can help if you want to reach out. He looked directly into the camera, and Diva felt he was looking straight into her soul. I'm not asking you to do anything, my love. This isn't a deathbed demand. But I thought you should know. I thought maybe, in your loneliness, in your grief, you might find comfort in knowing you have family out there. That you're not alone. That maybe Emma isn't alone either. His expression softened. You have the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known. It's why I fell in love with you. It's why I stayed in love with you every single day. Whatever you decide to do with this information, I'll understand. I'll always understand. I love you, Diva Morrison. Thank you for 37 beautiful years. The screen went black. Diva sat in the darkness of her living room, tears streaming down her face. She felt everything at once, anger at Joel's deception, grief at what they'd lost, fear of what reaching out might mean. But strongest of all was something unexpected, hope. She opened the portfolio with shaking hands. Inside were photographs, a little girl with Joel's eyes, a teenager with his crooked smile, a woman in scrubs holding 2 newborn babies. Letters Joel had written over the years, outpouring of regret and love. Medical records. Report cards. A wedding announcement. And at the bottom, a photo that made Diva gasp. Emma at maybe 16, laughing at something off camera, her whole face lit up with joy. She looked exactly like Rebecca at that age. The sisters could have been twins. At the very back was one more envelope marked, "Open if you decide to reach out." Inside was a letter already written, addressed to Emma, explaining everything. And a phone number for the lawyer, Gerald Richmond. Diva poured herself a glass of wine, something she hadn't done since Joel died, and sat with the photographs spread around her like tarot cards, trying to divine her future in the faces of strangers who were impossibly family. Act 3, The Choice. For 3 days, Diva couldn't decide. She called Rebecca, who was shocked, then angry, then quietly thoughtful. "So I have a sister," Rebecca said finally. "And you have another daughter. And there are 2 boys who are, what? My half-nephews." "I suppose so. Are you going to contact her?" "I don't know. What if she hates me? What if she hates Joel? What if she doesn't want anything to do with us? What if she does?" That night, Diva couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Emma, alone in Portland, not knowing she had a father who'd thought of her, who'd set up a trust fund, who'd loved her from a distance. Not knowing she had a stepmother who'd loved her husband, who understood loneliness, who had room in her heart for more family. At 2 a.m. she called the lawyer. His voicemail picked up and Diva's words tumbled out in a rush. "Mr. Richmond, this is Diva Morrison, Joel's wife. Widow. I found the documents. I'd like to meet Emma if she's willing. Please call me back. She hung up feeling terrified and exhilarated, like she'd just jumped off a cliff and didn't know if she'd fly or fall. Gerald Richmond called back the next morning. His voice was warm, grandfatherly. Mrs. Morrison, Joel told me so much about you. I'm glad you called. Has Emma been receiving money from the trust? Yes, though she doesn't know its origin. It's been designated as a beneficiary grant. She used it for nursing school for the down payment on her house. It's made a real difference in her life. Does she know about Joel at all? No. Caroline never told her. After Caroline died, I considered reaching out, but Joel asked me to wait. He said it should come from family, not a lawyer. What if she doesn't want to know? Mrs. Morrison, may I be frank? I've handled Emma's trust for 12 years. I've watched her from a distance, seen the kind of person she is. She's like your husband, kind, dedicated, stubborn as hell. She names her sons Sawyer and Finn, after Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, because she believes in adventure and loyalty. She volunteers at a children's hospital on her days off. She grows tomatoes that never quite ripen because Portland doesn't get enough sun, but she tries every year anyway. Diva found herself smiling through tears. She's looking for connection, Mrs. Morrison. We all are. The question is whether you're brave enough to offer it. I'm terrified. Then you're ready. The bravest things we do are the ones that scare us most. Act 4, The Meeting. 2 weeks later, Diva sat in a coffee shop in Portland's Pearl District, her hands wrapped around a cup she couldn't seem to drink from. Rebecca had offered to come, but Diva had decided this first meeting should be just her and Emma. Gerald had reached out, explained everything, and Emma had agreed to meet. She'd said she needed time to process, but yes, she wanted to know about her biological father. She wanted to meet Diva. When Emma walked through the door, Diva knew her immediately. She had Joel's eyes, that same shade of hazel that shifted from green to gold depending on the light. She had Rebecca's build, slim and athletic. And she had something of her own too, a guardedness around her smile, a careful way of moving that spoke of someone who'd learned not to expect too much from life. Diva? Emma's voice was soft but steady. Emma? Diva stood, unsure whether to hug or shake hands or what. They settled on an awkward half-embrace that lasted just long enough to feel real. They sat. For a moment, neither spoke. I don't know where to start, Emma said finally. Neither do I. Diva managed a small laugh. I brought photos. Of Joel. Of Rebecca. Of, well, everything. She slid the envelope across the table. Emma opened it with careful fingers, and Diva watched her face as she looked through the pictures. Saw the moment she recognized her own eyes in Joel's face, the moment she noticed the resemblance to Rebecca. He knew about me? Emma's voice was small. Yes, he always knew. He made a terrible choice when he was young and afraid, and he spent the rest of his life regretting it. He wanted to reach out so many times, but he didn't know how. He was afraid you'd reject him. Afraid I'd leave him. Afraid of so many things. Did you want to leave him? Diva considered this. I was angry when I found out. Hurt. But mostly I was sad. Sad for all the years we missed. Sad that he carried this alone. Sad that you didn't get to know him because Emma, he was wonderful. Infuriating and stubborn and terrible at remembering birthdays, but wonderful. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I always felt like something was missing. My dad, my stepdad Thomas, he was great. He loved me. But I always wondered about my biological father. Mom would never talk about him. Just said he was someone from her past who wasn't ready to be a father. I thought he didn't want me. Oh, honey. The endearment slipped out before Diva could stop it. He wanted you so much. He just didn't know how to reach across the gap he'd created. They talked for 3 hours. Diva told Emma about Joel's love of terrible puns, his habit of doing crossword puzzles in pen, his tendency to cry at dog food commercials. She told her about Rebecca, about the twins' uncles and cousins, about the family Emma could be part of if she wanted. Emma told Diva about her life, about Sarah, about Sawyer and Finn, about nursing school in the pediatric ward where she worked. About her mother, Caroline, who'd been her best friend, and Thomas, who taught her to ride a bike and walked her down the aisle. I'm not trying to replace them, Diva said carefully. I could never. But if you want, I'd love to be in your life. In your son's lives. Rebecca wants to meet you. She's actually angry at me for not bringing her today. Emma laughed, wiping her eyes. I'd like that. I'd really like that. Yeah. Yeah. Emma reached across the table and took Diva's hand. Sarah's going to think I'm crazy coming home with a surprise family, but she always says I should be more spontaneous. You could come for Thanksgiving, Diva heard herself say. Bring Sarah and the boys. Rebecca will be there with her partner. It'll be chaos, but good chaos. We'd love that. They stood to leave, and this time the hug was real, long and tight and full of possibility. Emma? Diva said as they reached the door. Thank you. For being brave enough to meet me. For giving me a chance. Thank you for coming, Emma replied. For not letting his fear be the end of the story. Act 5, not alone. Thanksgiving was indeed chaos. Sawyer and Finn tore through Diva's house like miniature tornadoes, fascinated by everything, their laughter echoing off walls that had been too quiet for too long. Sarah helped in the kitchen, trading recipes and stories. Rebecca and Emma sat on the couch looking at old photo albums, finding themselves in each other's childhood pictures, marveling at the connection they'd never known existed. Diva stood in the doorway watching them, a dish towel in her hands, and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Not happiness exactly, the grief was still there, would always be there, but something like peace. Like coming home. Mom? Rebecca called. Come settle an argument. Emma says Joel couldn't sing. I say he just chose not to because he was secretly amazing. Your father, Diva said, moving to sit between her daughters, both her daughters, couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. But he sang anyway. Loudly. Usually in the shower. See? Emma crowed. I knew it. That night, after everyone had left, after the dishes were done and the leftovers packed up for Emma and Sarah to take back to Portland, Diva sat in Joel's favorite chair with a glass of wine and looked at the photograph she'd been talking to for months. You were right, she told him. I'm not alone. None of us are. She could almost hear his reply, that gentle rumble of a voice. I know, my love. I know. The house was still quiet, but it was a different quiet now. Not empty. Full of possibility. Full of the echoes of children's laughter and new family and second chances. Diva picked up her phone and texted Emma. Sawyer left his stuffed dinosaur. I'll bring it next weekend when I visit. Looking forward to seeing you all again. The reply came almost immediately. Perfect. The boys are already asking when Grandma Diva is coming back. Fair warning, they're going to want you to read them all the books. Grandma Diva. She smiled, feeling something she'd thought was gone forever, joy. She had thought Joel's death was the end of her story. Instead, it turned out to be a new chapter. Different from what she'd planned, but no less precious. No less full of love. Outside, the first snow of the season began to fall, covering everything in white, making the world new again. Diva watched it through the window, Joel's picture warm in her hands, and whispered, Thank you. For this gift. For one more surprise. For showing me that love doesn't end, it just transforms. And in the quiet of that moment, in the house that was no longer empty, Diva Morrison was not alone.